So this week on Game Face, we're going to be covering 3 different things again. Of course, 2 semi-serious things, and then of course a silly topic. The first one is going to be the Rift Conquest that's coming to the game very soon, and then the next one's going to be the layoffs in the industry, and the third is going to be zombies. Now this isn't really game related, but gamers appreciate the zombie apocalypse, and so I thought I'd talk about it because I myself have a very big obsession with zombies and have for a very long time. And so I thought I would just dive a little bit into that. Now let's start off with the Conquest system that's coming to Rift. Now this is a 3-faction system, and basically it exists in a sliver. And what a sliver is it is a tear into an alternate reality of tiaras and toddlers. What it does is it goes into an alternate reality of Talara, and basically things change. The rules change in these slivers. Like, things that happen in Talara don't exactly happen in the slivers, or maybe they happen differently. And so in this one you have 3 factions. You have your Dominion, your Oathsworn, and your Night Watch. What is this, Game of Thrones now? Okay, so you have your Dominion, your Oathsworn, and your Nightfall. And so this brings in the question of balance. How's balance going to work? You know, with the, let's just say the Dominion. They're the coolest for some reason. Everybody picks Dominion. And then what about the Oathsworn and the Nightfall? How are they going to go about balance? Now this is something you bring up in any game with factions and not free-for-all, is sort of how are you going to go about balancing this so that way, you know, the big guy doesn't pick on the smaller 2, or the big guy and the smallest don't pick on the medium guy. It's like, because that's what I experienced in Guild Wars. Like, even though I'd like to believe that the community would just police themselves and the 2 smaller ones would team up and gang up on the big guy, it doesn't really happen. Actually, the opposite happened in Guild Wars. The big guy and the medium guy teamed up together and took over the small guy, then the big guy turned around and took over the medium guy. It's like, it was just, I was... And so it's like the whole pleasing itself sometimes doesn't work, and so it'd be interesting to see how that happens. Now, this takes place in Stillmore, and, you know, basically it's objective based. You have to go and take over objectives and control them and fight over them, and it extends from the fields to the castle, and so there are key points in the map that you have to control, and it's important to control it to buff your team or to gain whatever, you know, just... You get the idea. You get the idea. And of course people are like, oh, it seems like another game that might be coming out soon. Like it's a ripoff. And, you know, no, not exactly. And first of all, that other game wasn't the one to create this sort of system. You know, it reminds me a lot of Warhammer, the other game. It reminds me a lot of Warhammer and Daok. Now, this one seems a little bit different. Rift is actually going for more of an objective-based controlling, where it's, you know, you take over objectives, you're not spending countless minutes/hours beating down doors and killing siege lords to take over a castle. Instead, you're fighting the other faction to take control of a point. And they even said that, you know, their main focus in this is PvP and not PvE. So you're not going to be fighting furniture and lawn ornaments the whole time. You're going to be fighting each other a lot. And crafting does play a small role as well. Now, if you want more information on this, you can head on over to MMORPG. I will link the article below in the description, because Susie Ford actually did a really nice coverage of this. She got to talk to them, you know, while she was making the article, and so there's a lot of information in it. It's very handy. Now, basically to win or control, I guess, the zone is you have to control 40% of it, or you have to kill 5,000 players. And this would actually be kind of handy, because it's like, if you're a big faction that's controlling a lot, well then you can be one of the smaller ones that, you know, has less people and just go around picking everybody off and killing them and trying to avoid getting killed yourself. And so perhaps you could beat someone just by killing them. That'd be really interesting to see. I would like to see that. And so the only thing I have is balance. How are they going to balance it out? But at the same time, you know, some people have an issue with the lore. Does it go against the lore? Certainly it might go against the lore. 3 factions does go against the lore, because, you know, Guardian and Defiant, clearly 2 factions right there. It's like, but at the same time, you know, this is something that a lot of people are really looking forward to putting into the game, and so it is justified by the fact that it is a sliver and it is an alternate reality. And so I don't know, if they're going to put something fun in a game and it slightly goes against the lore, I'm not one to complain about it because I like PvP and I like having fun, and I also like turtles. Over the past week, there have been quite a few layoffs in the game industry, and most of those have been from 38 Studios and from BioWare / EA / Star Wars, The Old Republic. And I mean, I don't know, I have stuff to say about each of them, but with 38 Studios, they pretty much laid off everyone. They laid off everyone. And so that's like over 350 people, and it's because they could barely pay back the debt they owed to Rhode Island, the state of Rhode Island. And so in order to do that, they laid off everybody, and, you know, the future for that game and for Kurt Schilling, not exactly sure. I did, you know, watch him on the Future of MMO panel, and it seemed like everything was going okay, but at the same time, things change. So that's really surprising, but there was a lot of support on Twitter, including from ArenaNet and quite a few others, where 38 jobs was a hashtag, and basically it helped people to find jobs for the people who were laid off from that company. From those companies, I guess, because there was another one. But, you know, at the same time, the whole Star Wars, going over to that and how people were laid off from Star Wars, I guess I'm not too surprised because they did go through their big launch. Their launch is over now. They don't need as many people to keep the game afloat. And that's what a lot of companies do. Whenever they have a big expansion or a big release coming out, they ramp up. And then after the big release and everything starts to die down, they go, they start, laying people off. Or that's when a lot of companies get contract. And they just let the contracts expire and those people go and find jobs elsewhere. And so I'm not surprised because even Blizzard does the same thing. When Cataclysm came out, they ramped up. And, afterwards, they let the contracts expire. It's not surprising to me to see this happen. And so, I mean, I'm sure if a huge expansion comes out in the future for Star Wars, they're going to ramp back up because they're going to need the support and the testing and all that done for it. Just my 2 cents on that. Now, a lot of people are aware of the whole man eating guy's face, and zombie man that's eating guy's face gets shot by police and killed, and then another guy gets rushed to the hospital, and then the internet explodes and like, oh my gosh, it's the zombie apocalypse. And now there's a whole bunch of like crazy stuff happening and more things getting discovered and people are just going nuts. And even I was just like, wow, it is the zombie apocalypse. And if I had to pick an apocalypse out of all the options that were given, it'd either be the Awakening or the zombie apocalypse, because the other ones just sound terrifying and like you don't have a chance of surviving even if you wanted to. And so zombies sound okay if you look at it that way. But at the same time, I guess what people don't realize is that this zombie man was actually under the influence of a drug called bath salts. And no, it's not the kind of bath salt where you're like, ooh, scrub-a-dub-dub, my tub smells so good. If that's what you're like, I don't know. It's not that kind. You don't actually eat the bath salt that you get from Bed Bath & Beyond. It's actually just a drug made up of a whole bunch of words I can't pronounce, and it acts as a cocaine replacement or a synthetic LSD, and it has very harmful and addictive effects. And so this man that did this was on it, and so therefore it's probably not a good thing to ever do it. Ever. Unless, technically speaking, if you were to look at it like, oh, zombies are going to be caused by some sort of drug gone wrong, well, there you go. Drug gone wrong, right there. Only he couldn't spread it, hopefully. We haven't heard anything about the man who survived the attack, if he's a zombie or not. If he turns into a zombie, the police will probably shoot him dead before he can actually do anything about it. He's probably already handcuffed to the bed in case he becomes a zombie. Now, I'm just making this up, but you never know. It could be true.